What is up, everybody? Welcome to my review of Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, the long awaited fourth film in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. Now, I've been watching and been a fan of the Beverly Hills Cop movies my entire life, even the third one. In fact, as a small kid, the third one was my favorite. I remember us having a framed poster in our first apartment that my dad had in the back behind the dining room table of Eddie Murphy framed in front of a roller coaster, and I even shot it with a Nerf arrow at one point. It's weird, the shit that sticks in your head 30 years later. But I've always liked these movies, and I am one of those people that have always hoped that at some point Eddie Murphy would come back to this character, to this franchise, and give us one more, hopefully really good Beverly Hills Cop film. And I think more than anyone that had their prominence in the 80s, I have been craving an Eddie Murphy resurgence. I have been craving this guy to just suddenly get his footing again and select a number of projects where it just feels like he's back. He's back on top. He's hitting like he was back in the 80s. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I certainly don't want to put the weight of that expectation on Beverly Hills Cop, but there's a little bit of that tied in there too, where him coming back to his signature role gives me hope that maybe if this is good, Eddie Murphy will have his full resurgence again. Nonetheless, this fourth Beverly Hills Cop film is something that I feel like I've been hearing rumors and rumblings about basically my entire life, and much heavier over the last 7 or so years that I've been on YouTube, and it's gone through many different versions of itself. Like, you had a version where they were trying to cast the guy from, the guy who played the Booty Sweat rapper on Tropic Thunder as his son, and it was going to be like a buddy cop film of Axel Foley and his son, and then eventually that idea kind of got morphed into this TV series that, if I'm not mistaken, they shot a full pilot for, and it just never got picked up. So then yet again, it kind of went away. And then here recently, they started to talk about Netflix maybe doing it, and then suddenly it was happening. Suddenly we got a poster, and we started to get these behind the scenes pictures, and then they started to show that Judge Reinhold and John Ashton were back, and it was like, holy shit, is this actually happening? Are they actually making a fourth Beverly Hills Cop film that feels so far like maybe they got the right idea? And the basic plot of this film is that you've got Axel Foley, who is estranged from his daughter, finds out that she is in trouble, that she's tangled up in this little corruption plot back in Beverly Hills, and so yet again he gets yanked across to the other side of the country and is trying to solve this corruption mystery while at the same time trying to repair his relationship with his estranged daughter. So is Beverly Hills Cop Axel F a return to form for Axel Foley and a return to form for Eddie Murphy, or is this yet another disappointing attempt to revive Eddie Murphy's career or revisit one of his classic characters? Well, really quick before I discuss the film, not all of us have this wild, off-the-wall Detroit cop as a father to call whenever our personal information gets leaked onto the internet, so we have to turn to somebody else for help, like the sponsor of today's video, Aura. Have you ever Googled yourself on a whim and been shocked to find out how much of your personal information is just readily available for anybody to find? Well, the unfortunate reality is that data brokers make an absolute killing selling all of your personal information to robocallers and spammers or anybody willing to pay for all of your personal info. Your full name, your residence, your phone number, email address, health records, closest living relatives, it's all out there. Well, the sponsor of today's video, Aura, is here to help by identifying these data brokers and even submitting opt-out requests on your behalf. Legally, these data brokers do have to wipe all of your personal information if you request them to do so, but they make it extremely difficult for you to do it. So just let Aura do all the heavy lifting for you. Recently, AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, existing and former, were released onto the dark web. They recommended that those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes and fraud alerts. Well, Aura does all of this for me in one easy-to-use app. I don't have to seek out and make subscriptions on multiple services just because a major company couldn't keep my personal information safe. I value my privacy, and I value yours. So go to aura.com/Cody Leach or click the link in the video description to start your 2-week free trial of Aura today. That's aura.com/Cody Leach. And thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Starting off with the positives, I thought this was a very solid, nostalgic return for Axel Foley and for classic Eddie Murphy. I feel like they hit just enough beats that kind of give you the warm and fuzzies as a old school Beverly Hills Cop fan, the humor and the profanity, which is an important piece to that, that. It hits pretty well throughout most of the film. There's some pretty solid action throughout all of it. There's a lot of music cues and music notes and things like that that are called back from the first couple of films that certainly give you that nostalgic feeling. This is the type of film where I don't really expect anybody to go over the rails and be like, this is the best Beverly Hills Cop film or it's as good as the originals. I don't see too many people thinking that, but I do feel that most people that are fans of the first two films primarily will appreciate and enjoy what they were able to do here, because it does recapture most of what you would want from this character, from this cast, and from this set of films.
You know, this is very embarrassing. You know, part of me rather get locked up than get put in this little Fisher-Price looking squad car. Y'all are the Lego cops.
You've got Axel Foley's fast-talking wit that he's trying to weasel his way in and out of certain things, and the way that he always drags certain people into it, and they just know exactly, they're like, that's Axel, that's Foley. They just know, just like us as audience members, exactly what they're getting into. And it's just fun to kind of revisit that and to have Eddie Murphy be riffing like that yet again. It's absolute bullshit, and it's completely unbelievable that you would have one cop, especially from a completely different state, that can come in and just do whatever the hell he wants and hijack whatever he wants and just basically have his way with Beverly Hills to solve this little tiny mystery. But we don't care because it's so much fun to see Eddie Murphy doing that. And he's somewhat convincing with his charm and his charisma and his fast wit that he would be able to pull some of this off.
Foley, you stole a helicopter! I didn't realize that you couldn't really fly a helicopter. Otherwise, I would have came up with a different idea. I told you it was a bad idea.
I also thought it was a fantastic treat to have John Ashton and Judge Reinhold back together with Eddie Murphy again. John Ashton's absence is honestly the biggest hole in the heart of Beverly Hills Cop 3, and as I said, I am somebody who is a fan of that movie, where most people absolutely despise it, but him not being there was the one thing that you will never hear any argument out of me was a giant flaw. And he has not missed a beat in this character of Taggart. You know, he gets a lot more screen time than Judge Reinhold, I will say that, just to kind of properly set your expectations, but any scene where you have any mix of these three characters back together on screen, it's so much fun. And their energy and their charisma and their chemistry with each other, it has not lost a single drip since the 80s. I thought the action was solid enough for the type of movie that this is. You know, it's just very simple little shootouts. You do get a little bit more of a modern blockbuster type attitude with it, with him stealing a snowplow in the beginning, and then we've all seen clips in the trailer from them inside of a helicopter. So there's a little bit of a ramp up of the stakes here as far as that goes, but it's not really a movie that's trying to stake its claim or plant its flag in today's modern action climate with things like John Wick or the Extraction movies, or even what they're doing with the most recent Bad Boys sequels. It's not on that level, but from what you would expect from a Beverly Hills Cop film, a movie that's supposed to be primarily comedy with a little bit of cop action in there, I think they do a satisfying job of having some good thrilling stuff throughout the three acts. I also really enjoyed the inclusion of Joseph Gordon-Levitt as kind of this younger cop that has, you know, heard some of the stories of Axel Foley, but is absolutely trying to walk the straight line and gets paired up with Axel later on in the film. He was a lot of fun. And of course, Kevin Bacon in here is just a blast. I mean, this guy is just effortlessly fun and cool. And, you know, his character, there's not a whole lot of surprises in store for what they do with him. I think that it's all pretty much written on the wall, but as soon as he's in here, there's just an added level of coolness because Kevin Bacon is here. And the fact that he's a fan of Beverly Hills Cop and just kind of wanted to be a part of bringing that legacy back, if you look in behind the scenes, that's a lot of fun too. So cool little additions to the cast. And my final positive is that I think they put themselves in a really healthy position to continue this franchise with this film. It's a very deliberately safe and nostalgic Beverly Hills Cop movie, and for some people that's going to end up being a negative on their experience, that it leans a little bit too much into nostalgia, and that's totally fair. I'll understand some people's irritation with that because nostalgia has been overdone quite a bit over the last decade or more, but I think that was the right approach for this, to lean kind of into some of those more safer, familiar, nostalgic Beverly Hills Cop elements, deliver a solid, entertaining experience, and then if people want it, and if this is successful enough, which I hope that it is, I could very easily see them carrying on to do a fifth film that goes a little more outside the box and still gets everybody back and maybe gives us another Beverly Hills Cop trilogy. So it puts me in a position where I'm yet again optimistic and excited for this as a franchise.
God, I missed you, Axel.
Moving on to the mixed, as much as I just said that the safe nostalgic route is the correct route, the one element that I did kind of toy with whether or not I liked it or not throughout the film is the music cues. And there's quite a few of them that I loved. There's quite a few of them, especially in the first 10-15 minutes of the movie, that's just like, yeah, we're back, baby. You start to hear some of those classic sounds and the Axel F score and things, and it kind of gets that nostalgic awesomeness, just that happiness brewing throughout your body. But there's a lot of it. And there's quite a few sequences where it doesn't even feel like the music choices actually fit what's going on in the scene. Like, there's a slower, classic Beverly Hills Cop piece of the score that's more so whenever he's just kind of sneaking around or kind of doing his detective thing. And they put that as the backdrop for like this high-octane action set piece. And I was like, that music does not fit what's going on here. You're going for nostalgia and you're drawing attention to the fact that it's weird here. So there was a couple of those choices, as well as maybe front-loading the movie a bit too much with the music instead of spreading it out. Like, you'll hear at least 3 or 4 of the classic songs from the first 2 films within the first 15 minutes of this film. And you're just like, wow, they're just basically got these soundtracks on play throughout this movie, don't they? So that's the one thing that I feel like they could have dialed in and been a little bit more careful with the nostalgia overload there, is with the music cues. But I'd be lying if I didn't say it worked on me for the most part. And now moving on to the negatives. And the biggest issue that I had with this film is that I did not like Axel Foley's daughter as a character. And it's both a combination of the performance as well as the way that they wrote her character. Now, as I said, the main driving plot here, aside from, the overarching cops and robbers plot, the main subplot going on as far as character dynamics is Axel Foley and his estranged daughter. And as soon as he gets with her in the first act of the film, and it becomes kind of a buddy cop movie with those two together investigating things, it becomes such a one-note exchange between these characters, where Axel Foley is doing his very quick-witted, like, come on, I'm just trying to have fun kind of personality that we love Eddie Murphy and this character for, and then you have his daughter as the biggest fucking wet blanket in the world, which I could understand that for a bit. If there's some kind of a strain there, of course, she's not going to be in the mood for the fast-talking Axel Foley bullshit. She wants her father. Totally understand that. But they do this exchange between them over and over and over again for like an hour, where they're stuck in a car together or they're stuck investigating something, and he's trying so hard to like crack the nut to try to get some kind of a conversation go, where they're trying to get some kind of a repair to their relationship, and she's just like, nah, bruh. Just a full 45 minutes or hour of this character just impatient and annoyed, and that's all you get from her from this movie. And I just didn't enjoy it after a while. In fact, it dragged down the entire middle act of the film for me to where I was really into it for the first act, and then it really started to lose me, and I was like, oh my God, am I actually going to say 3's better than this one? And then it picked back up again in the third act whenever she kind of leaves the movie for a bit and he teams up with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and the chemistry and the back and forth between those two is still mildly antagonistic, but it was more fun. And I'm like, why the fuck wasn't that there the whole movie? Why didn't you just team those two together or have his daughter be a little bit less of an insufferable personality? I would have enjoyed this movie significantly more if that was the case, but I just really did not enjoy what they did there. I don't enjoy this modern trope of trying to like have somebody talk down to the main character or the hero that we're here to see. We had a horrible example of it last year in Indiana Jones, and this isn't quite on that level, so don't worry, but I just don't like that trope. And if you're going to have the bitter child to an action hero, like we saw this in Live Free or Die Hard with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, the reason why it worked in that movie is because eventually there was a reconciliation, and eventually there was entertainment value in her ironically having the exact same personality as her father. And you don't have that here. You just have a one-note wet blanket character that totally tries to diminish anything fun going on with Axel Foley and with Beverly Hills Cop for like the solid middle 40 minutes of this film. I also didn't find the overall cop plot going on to be overly interesting. Like, it's fine enough to kind of get the characters in motion and let the characters do what they do. So it does good enough as a catalyst to bring back the classic Beverly Hills Cop elements. And so it's forgivable enough for that. But if you are going in here hoping for some really interesting plot synopsis or some really interesting cops and robbers dynamic, it's very cliched. It's very easy to figure out what's going on. And without saying too much, like when you have a corruption plot and there's only a small handful of characters that have not been around for the previous movies, you're like, wonder who the corrupt character could be. I also found the one sequence that we get here with Serge to be the dumbest scene in the entire film. I like that character. I understand the motivation to want to bring him back. He is an iconic character that's been in 2 of the films, but the placement in the movie, like the narrative reason for why they get together with him in the scene that follows, doesn't feel necessary, and I just didn't think it was funny. I didn't think the exchange between Axel and Serge was funny, and I didn't think that the scene that came after that with the realtor was funny, so I just kind of wanted that whole sequence to end. And I feel like they already milked whatever secondary conversation you could have with these characters in Beverly Hills Cop 3. Like, get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot. Like, how many times can you do that without it just feeling like, do you guys say this every time you get together? And my final negative is that I wanted a lot more out of the Billy Rosewood and Taggart and Axel Foley dynamic. We only get some scenes with those characters. Billy Rosewood, Judge Reinhold basically disappears for an hour or more of this film. He opens it and then he closes it when everything kind of comes to a head. John Ashton is more of a regular presence, but still, most of this film is Axel Foley and his daughter, or Axel Foley and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and we just get a few sequences with the 3 characters that everybody's really excited to see together again. And my hope is that if this is successful enough, a 5th film will be much more of that. But if you're walking into this expecting Billy and Taggart and Axel for most of the film, it's not that at all. And in a lot of ways, that's a compliment. The fact that these characters being back together again still have that classic chemistry, the writing is still there, the actors are still delivering really well as far as their chemistry with each other, to where the little bit that we did get here just made me salivate for more. Overall, guys, I enjoyed this film. I think that it's a solid, nostalgic return for this character and for this franchise. I do think it's better than the 3rd film. I don't think it's as good as the first 2, but I mean, realistically, were any of us walking in expecting this to be? I don't think it's even possible. So if you're somebody that wants just a fun return to this franchise, a fun return of these characters, and have a solid, entertaining 90-minute adventure that hits on nostalgia quite a bit, I think you'll enjoy this. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, click over here for all of my other 2024 new release reviews. And I'm also going to put our 31 on 31 Night of Comedy up here. If you like comedies, especially 80s comedies, there's quite a few in this ranking for you to check out. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my Beverly Hills Cop ranking here in a couple of days, as well as the Maxine review. Please check all that out. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.